Are you a current or future physician assistant wanting to learn more about finances? Then join me on this journey to become a PA the FI way. Hi, my name is Kat, and I'm a practicing certified physician assistant who will be your host. It took me 5 years after I started practicing medicine as a PA to thoroughly dive into my personal finances after I discovered the concept of financial independence. I want to use what I have learned to help you avoid some of the financial mistakes that I have made while sharing some of the financial wins that I have had along the way. Join me as we discuss financial strategies to guide you to becoming a physician assistant on the way to financial independence. Welcome back to the PA the FI Way podcast. I'm your host, Kat, and thanks for joining me for today's episode. I want to talk about the benefits of boundaries and how to set them. And the reason why I want to discuss this topic today is because implementing boundaries helps with your overall well-being and is a form of self-care. There are various areas in your life where boundaries can be created, and there are several things that you can do to start implementing boundaries as well. So let's first discuss the benefits of boundaries. Boundaries protect you and others. Having healthy boundaries in place protects things like your mental space, your physical space, your time, and even your money. There are two extremes of boundaries. Either too rigid boundaries on one hand or no boundaries at all on the other. These each have their own risks. For example, if your boundaries are too rigid, you may be the type of person who has a hard time forming relationships or friendships because you keep people at a distance. You can seem detached to others, including your loved ones, or you could avoid relationships altogether. If your boundaries are very few or non-existent, you may be the type of person who is a, quote, people pleaser because you have a hard time saying no and can be taken advantage of. Having healthy boundaries is kind of like Goldilocks. You want the right amount and level of boundaries for you and your life so you can be a good communicator about what you want and need, value yourself and your opinions, know when and how to say no, as well as accept when others tell you no. Although we are trying to find the balance of our boundaries for our lives, it's important to understand that we each may have more rigid boundaries in some areas of our lives than others. For example, working in healthcare, you may choose to have more rigid boundaries with the personal information that you tend to share with your patients, as you likely should in many situations. But maybe outside of your workplace, you share a lot of personal information with friends or even new acquaintances. Setting boundaries in your life provides you with many benefits. Here are a few. You're able to manage your stress better. You have improved communication with others. You can have less anger or resentment towards others. You can have better assertiveness, more compassion for yourself and others. You can have improved self-care overall. You can tend to feel safer and have better relationships with others. You can feel accepted, respected, understood, and valued by others. You can prevent burnout. You can often have more time and energy for the things that bring you joy. You can have increased confidence and increased autonomy. You can have clear expectations for both yourself and others. You can feel more empowered. You can have increased self-esteem, independence, and a sense of identity. You can have improved emotional health and mental health. Now that you can recognize all of the benefits of implementing healthy boundaries into your life, how can you get started? Well, there are a few simple steps that you can take. The first is to start by evaluating your current boundaries. Think about different areas of your life where you have boundaries such as in your home, your workplace, boundaries around your emotions, your technology use, your relationships with family and friends, your self-care routine, your self-talk, your mental health and your physical health, and even your finances. What do you feel like is working or not working? Do you feel like you're being manipulated, abused, used, or taken advantage of in any of these areas? How do you feel like you can establish better boundaries for yourself in some of these areas too, as well as for others? What areas do you feel like you have very good and healthy boundaries in place? The next step is if you identify areas where you feel like you need to establish or tweak certain boundaries, Start with small changes. Once you start the process of analyzing your current boundaries, you may become overwhelmed with all of the areas where you feel like you need to make changes. But start with only one up to maybe a few at a time. You may have had poor boundaries for many years, so it's going to take a lot of time and patience to learn how to set new healthy boundaries for yourself. The third step is to get clarity. Open, unclear boundaries for yourself and others can create more confusion. Get crystal clear on what your boundaries are. The next step is to simplify. Especially when you're starting, make a boundary super simple and straightforward. Don't overcomplicate it. The next step is to practice setting boundaries. If setting a boundary for others seems overwhelming or intimidating, understand that this is a normal feeling. Practice setting the boundary either with yourself in a mirror, by talking out loud, or with a friend or family member. Practice saying no in a respectful and kind way. The next step for setting a healthy boundary is to communicate. When you're reviewing your boundaries with others, you need to communicate openly with them. No one can read your mind. Try to be direct while always remaining respectful. The seventh step for establishing healthy boundaries is to be consistent. Once you've established clear boundaries and communicated them to yourself or others, you need to be consistent. If you're not consistent, then you're just sending mixed messages to yourself or others. Consistency helps you to obtain and maintain respect by others. And the eighth and final step is to reassess and make changes if needed. Once you've implemented boundaries in your life, understand that you can be empowered to make adjustments if needed. If it's a boundary with someone else, though, you definitely need to make sure that you clearly communicate the updated version of the boundary with them. Remember, no one can read your mind. So setting boundaries has many benefits for your life, and we reviewed the different steps that you can take to develop and set the boundaries that feel right for you in your life. Consider the different areas in life where you could implement boundaries to improve your environment and your relationships. Remember that healthy boundaries are not only a self-care item that you can do for you, but that they show how others can treat you in a respectful way. What do you think? What areas do you feel like you need to establish more boundaries in? Or what areas do you feel like you already have healthy boundaries? I hope this information was helpful for you today, and thanks for taking a listen to this episode. Remember, I'm gathering the wins that you've had this year in regards to your finances or on your journey to financial independence. So go ahead and send me an email at pathefiway@gmail.com or reach out to me over on Instagram at pathefiway or through the PA the FIWay Facebook group. I'm looking forward to sharing your stories the end of the year about how you're all taking different steps to eventually reach financial independence. Thanks for taking a listen, and I'll see you back here next week. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you decide to continue to join me along this journey of becoming a PA the FIWay. Please take a moment to press the subscribe button on the platform that you are listening to this on, but more importantly, consider sharing with another current or future PA that could benefit from the information that we reviewed in this episode. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Until next time.